The Season 2 Reloaded update happened yesterday, which brought a lot of new weapon changes, nerfs, and buffs to a lot of weapons that we've all been using. So I figured with this new update, I'm going to bring you guys the top 5 best class setups that you want to be using for Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer. Now, like I said, there was a lot of weapon changes, nerfs, and buffs. I'm not going to go over all the weapons in this top 5 class setup. I'm going to go over a few, but make sure you guys like and subscribe so you guys can check out the videos I make on the other class setups for the weapons that got nerfed and buffed. Without further ado, let's get into the top 5 best guns you should be using here in Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer. Of course, we got to go over the brand new marksman rifle that was added for the Season 2 Reloaded update, the Tempus Torrent. This thing's pretty good. Again, it is a marksman rifle, so it's going to be a lot slower for the ADS time, and really, it's just going to be a lot slower in general. So checking it out here in the firing range, it is basically a guaranteed 2-shot and also a 1-shot to the head at just about any range. Let's get into the class setup. First attachment is going to be for the barrel, the 24-inch outreach 4 barrel. If you're playing longer maps, this is definitely recommended. I have tried out the Tor RP barrel, which gives more ADS time and hip recoil control and things like that. It just makes it a lot more faster to move around with this gun. If you're really up and close, gunfights and things like that, I would recommend going with this barrel. But if you're playing like medium, long ranges, I'd recommend going with the outreach barrel. And then here's the tuning: recoil steadiness 0.26, damage range 0.18. Next up is the FSS OLEV laser for the ADS time, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed. Just give this thing more just mobility, basically. Sprint to fire speed negative 0.27 for the tuning, and then negative 29.61 for the ADS time. I do recommend going with an optic. There isn't a ton of attachment choices. There's like a bunch of different locked stocks for some reason that I can't access yet, so I would just go with an optic. The Cronin Mini Pro is what I went with. I'd recommend going with something like the AIM-OPS is pretty good. I tried that out recently, and even some of the longer range ones here, like the Forge Tac Delta for longer range. The Schlager 3.4 is also great too. Don't forget to tune your attachments. You can definitely tune them. ADS time negative 1.55, and then close, I just did plus 1.67. I just like the way it looks. Far makes it, I think, smaller, I believe. So yeah, just go with whatever you think feels comfortable. For the rear grip, we went with the X10 grip for the sprint to fire speed and ADS time, which is quite obvious why we would go with this. Tuning for that, negative 0.35 ADS and negative 0.22 sprint to fire speed. Last and final attachment to help with recoil is the FTAC Ripper 56 for the aiming idle stability, hip fire accuracy, and recoil stabilization. And then, of course, tuning for that, plus 0.49 recoil stabilization and plus 0.25 aiming idle stability. That right there is the full class setup for the Tempus Torrent marksman rifle. Let's get into the second gun. Of course, we got to go over the ISO Hemlock. This was added with this normal Season 2 update, and it's still one of the best assault rifles that you should be using for Season 2. Just going over it here in the firing range, this thing has little to no recoil, and then with an optic, you're going to be literally frying at long ranges. I mean, it's like basically a 1, 2, 3 shot at just about any range. Checking out here again. Yep, let's go over the class setup for this guy. First attachment is the muzzle, the RF Crown 50 for the horizontal and vertical recoil control. Pretty obvious why we would need a muzzle. This thing has a decent amount of recoil with, not putting any attachments on it, so I would throw on this RF Crown muzzle to help with that. Tuning for that, plus 0.52 recoil stabilization, plus 0.15 gun kick control. Next up is the barrel. There's a couple of options. The LR-3056 is a great option. I was using the Fielder T50, however, your movement is a little bit slower. I think you still get great benefits with this barrel here for the damage range, hip fire accuracy, and bullet velocity. Tuning for that, plus 0.31 recoil steadiness and plus 0.19 damage range. Next up, I would recommend going with an optic as well. The iron sights on this gun aren't really that great in my opinion, so the Cronin Mini Pro is what I would go with and what I use for most of my weapons that you guys have seen so far. And then obviously make sure you tune your optics as well. Tuning that, I did negative 1.84 ADS time. You could probably max this out and be okay, and then negative 0.58 for the FAR. Now for the stock, we went with the RCOM S4 for the sprint speed, aim lock and speed, crouch movement speed, and ADS time. Pretty obvious why we would go with this. Adding on a barrel is going to slow down our movement, and adding on other attachments will also slow down movement, so having this is going to be helpful. Tuning for that is negative 1.42 ADS and negative 0.46 aim walking speed. Last and final attachment is the FTAC Ripper 56 for the underbarrel, just for recoil control, aiming idle stability, and hip fire accuracy. Tuning for that, plus 0.36 recoil stabilization and 0.17 aiming idle stability. And this right here is the full ISO Hemlock class setup that you should be using for the Season 2 Reloaded update. This thing absolutely fries still in Season 2, so make sure you guys keep using it. Let's go over the third gun. Next up, we're going to be going over the KASTOV 762. You might be wondering, why are you going over this gun? This gun's been in the game for a while. This gun has not been touched. Well, this gun actually just recently got banned for the CDL and ranked play. If you guys play ranked, this gun actually just got basically restricted and banned, so you can't use it anymore. So I figured it'd be fun just go over the KASTOV 762, just kind of show you guys the power of this weapon still. I mean, you guys know the KASTOV 762. This thing absolutely fries. Let's go over the class setup. First up, for the muzzle, the ZLR Talon 5 is going to be our best option. option for the sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness. Tuning for that is plus 0.90 and plus 0.52 for the bullet velocity. We're going to be skipping over the barrel. I think the barrels just add way too much like slowness to the gun, so we're going to be going with the laser. The FSS OLEV laser is going to be the best option for the ADS time, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed. Tuning for that, negative 0.11 sprint to fire speed and negative 18.10 for the ADS time. Again, going with an optic Cronin Mini Pro, you could probably switch this out for other attachments for this weapon, maybe like a rear grip or something like that, or just another attachment. Again, this is just personal preference, so go with what you want to. If you use an optic, obviously tune it negative 1.16 for the ADS time and negative 0.51 for far. Now, I want to say this might be a new stock for this weapon, maybe because we got it for the marksman rifle that was just added. This is the Hardtack 40. I haven't seen this one before, but what's interesting is it gives aim, walking speed, sprint speed, and recoil control, which I think is pretty broken in my opinion. Tuning for that is negative 1.55 ADS time and plus 1.08 for the aiming idle stability. Last and final attachment, the demo firm grip is what we use for the underbarrel for the aiming idle stability, hipfire accuracy, and recoil stabilization. I was using the F-Tac gripper, but for some reason it felt kind of off on this weapon. I'm not really sure why, so I would go with the demo firm grip and maybe even experiment with other grips that there are for this weapon. Tuning for that, plus 0.62 recoil stabilization and plus 0.21 aiming idle stability. That way there is the full KASTOV 762 banned weapon that you guys will be using for the Season 2 Reloaded update. Let's go over the fourth gun. Fourth gun we're going to be going over is the Vel 46. This thing actually got a pretty decent buff for the Season 2 Reloaded update, so I figured it'd be, fit perfectly with this video. We're going to be trying out here in the firing range. Obviously, this gun, if you guys have used it before, absolutely fries. At the long ranges, you are going to struggle a little bit there, so obviously, this is an SMG with a fast fire rate. So small to those medium ranges, you're going to have no problem. Let's go over the class setup. Now, with the recoil, a muzzle is going to be very helpful. We're going to be using the F-Tac Castle Comp for the horizontal and vertical recoil control. Tuning for that, plus 0.62 recoil stabilization and plus 0.27 gun kick control. Next up is the barrel, the Tango 228 barrel. I wanted to have this gun have a mix of like good damage range, but also still have good movement speed. There are some other barrels you can use for this. This one would give like the max damage range. However, it would slow your gun tremendously, so I would recommend not using this and just go with the Tango 228 barrel and tune it. The tuning I did, plus 0.19 recoil steadiness and plus 0.22 for damage range. With an SMG, I like running a laser on it personally just to help with the movement speed. VLK L07 MW is going to be the perfect option for the ADS time, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed. Of course, tuning is negative 0.34 for the sprint to fire speed and negative 18.10 for the ADS time. Next up for the stock, we went with the Demo RXT stock for the crouch movement speed, sprint speed, and aim down sight speed. I think the collapse is just a little bit too much. I mean, and look at the cons there. The only con you get with this is recoil control, but with this one, it's flinch resistance, aiming stability, and aiming recoil control. I wouldn't go with this one. I would just try out the Demo RXT stock and just thank me later. And of course, tuning is negative 1.29 for the ADS time and negative 1.47 for aim, walk, and speed. Last and final attachment is personal preference. I went with the 50 round mag. You could swap this out and go for another attachment, or you guys can just rock the 50 round mag and you should have no problem with this weapon. And that right there is the full Vel 46 class setup for the Season 2 Reloaded update. Let's get into the fifth and final gun. Last and final weapon we're going over is the Bass P. This one also got buffed for the Season 2 Reloaded update, so I figured it'd be, fitting to add it to this video as well. So trying out the firing range here. This thing is actually kind of a sleeper. You're not really going to get those long range engagements. I mean, I basically almost got that guy there. This thing really is made for, the short to medium ranges. But let's go over the class setup. For the muzzle, I went with the SynGuard MKV for the sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness. You can switch this out for a different muzzle that helps with the vertical and horizontal recoil if you feel like you're just playing those small to medium maps. This is just mainly for long range, so it takes 1 or 2 less bullets to get those guys that are longer range. Tuning for that is plus 0.50 for the recoil smoothness and plus 1.00 for the bullet velocity, basically maxing it out. Next up for the laser is the 1MW quickfire laser for just the ADS time. What I like about this laser, I don't really use this one often, is it only gives ADS benefits. It doesn't affect cons or anything like that, or doesn't affect laser visibility. It's only just for ADS speed, which I think is great. And what's awesome is you can also tune this as well. Negative 0.18 sprint to fire speed and negative 24.68 for the ADS time. Next up for the stock, we want the Bruin Flash V4 stock for the sprint to fire speed, aim, walking speed, crouch movement speed, and ADS time. We didn't actually tune this stock. You can definitely tune it, but I just left it how it was and it worked out okay. For the rear grip, we went with the Bruin Flash flash grip for the sprint and fire speed and ADS time. Pretty obvious why we go with this. You know, with an SMG, you want to be very, you know, light mobility. Having the broom flash grip is going to be helpful with that. Negative 0.48 ADS for the tuning, and then negative 0.20 for the sprint and fire speed. Last and final attachment, again, is personal preference. I think this thing comes standard with 30 rounds, though. I went with a 50 round mag. I just have used this always for the BAS-P, and I think it's just helpful just because, you know, it's an SMG. It's just nice to not always have to reload, but it does hurt your movement speed. So if you guys don't want that, you guys could switch this out for something else, and I think it would be just fine. But that right there is the BAS-P full class setup that you should use for this Zenith Reloaded update, and that's all 5 weapons. If you guys have any other good weapons, leave them in the comments below, and if you guys enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all later. Take care, everybody.